In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Matthew places this teaching about trusting God rather than worrying about things in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And it seems to be fairly early in Jesus' ministry. But Luke puts it here in the midst of Jesus' journey to Jerusalem, where he is very clearly caught between two totally different constituencies. If you back up to the end of chapter 11, notice the contrast. He went outside. The scribes and the Pharisees began to be very hostile toward him and to cross-examine him about many things, lying in wait for him to catch him in something he might say. That's the scribes and the Pharisees. Next verse, meanwhile, when the crowd gathered by the thousands so that they trampled on one another, he began to speak to his disciples. So the Pharisees and the scribes are increasingly against him, plotting to trap him if they can, do away with him if possible. The crowd is in the thousands, and he's very popular with the common people. Notice that this whole discussion is provoked by someone in the crowd asking, with what Luke Timothy Johnson calls stunning irrelevancy, asking Jesus to mediate a family inheritance dispute. Verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." And Jesus says to him, "Who made me a judge over you?"
Yeah.
Which is an interesting question because obviously the Father did. He tells the parable of the rich fool who tears down his barns to build bigger ones until God finally says to him this very night, your life is being demanded of you, and he realizes too late that he can't take it with him. And then he turns to his disciples, not the crowd of thousands, but his disciples, and gives them this teaching. Don't worry. He says it over and over. Verse 22, do not worry. Verse 25, can any of you, by worrying, add a single cubit to your stature? Verse 26, if you can't do that, why do you worry about the rest of things? Verse 29, do not keep worrying. It can be translated, take no thought, or do not be anxious, or more simply, don't worry. In Matthew's version, depending on which translation, he says it 5, 6, or 7 times in a row. Do not worry. It's a command. Much more easily said than done, in my experience. But I remind myself that worry is always future tense. You don't worry about what's happening now. You worry that it might get worse. And of course it might not. We need to hang on to 1 Corinthians 10:13. Listen to this. Memorize this. No testing, can be translated trial or temptation. No test, no trial, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested, tried, tempted, beyond your strength. But with the testing, trial, temptation, he will also provide the way out so that you may be able to endure it. Have you ever heard somebody say, I don't know how she copes with that. I could never handle that. You know what? You couldn't. Unless God called you to. If he calls you to go through it, he will enable you to cope with it. That's his promise. Hang on to it. No testing has overtaken you, but such as is common to everyone. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tested